So today I'm going to be going over my Necromancer build for POE 2. This Necromancer build is pretty easy. It got me through the campaign without any trouble at all. And I'm up to level 75. And we are up to tier 5 maps, so not that far into mapping, but actually, I think we're up to tier 7 waystones is what they're called in this game. First thing I want to do is talk about a couple of my sources. I've been watching a little bit of Gazzy TV. He's been doing a lot of testing for different support gyms, so that's been great. Also, the #1 resource for any new Necromancer, if you played POE 1, you played Necromancer, then you probably already know about this, but it's the Necromancer global chat inside of POE 2. By default, you're going to be inside of global chats like 1 through 5 or something. Those are like the basic, bullcrap global chats. And what you're going to do is you're going to right click, so you're going to pull up your little thing here. You see my little mouse, and you're going to right click on global, and it's going to come up with global, and then whichever number global you're in, and you're going to type in /global 6666 and press enter. This chat in POE 1 was mainly used for sharing specters, so there were like some really rare specters that you could only get from like a Drox map, and this is how you would get those specters without having to get that far into the game. You'll see a lot of people in here talking about different items they find. And you'll see a lot of people talking about, I just turned the game on, so there's not too much history here, but you can see it's going. They're going to be talking a lot about different support gyms they're using on different minions and testing and all that stuff. Now, there are a lot of minions in Path of Exile 2. I think that most minions, if built correctly, seem to be doing pretty well. The melee minions have a bit of an issue when it comes to actually getting through tight corridors. And that's been a bit of an issue with melee minion builds. So sometimes if you have like really tight corridors, like narrow passages from one section to another, you'll only have like two minions in the front actually melee attacking. First thing I'm going to do is, those are my main sources of information about minions. Those are the places where I talk about different support gems, or I looked at Gazzy's list of support gems that he's used. I haven't looked at any. A lot of people have asked me about Kripkarian. I haven't looked at anything from him yet. But let's go into our gems that we currently have equipped. We have Skeletal Warrior from our weapon. And with the 2 Skeletal Warriors, the main thing that I'm using them for is for my Pain Offering Sacrifice. Now, I don't always hit them, in the middle of battle, I use Pain Offering, and boom, I hit a random Arsonist instead of a Skeletal Warrior. But those 2 Skeletal Warriors, they're mainly there for me to have debuffers and also offerings for my offerings. On them, I put Meat Shield, so they have a little bit more life on them, so when they are up front tanking enemies, they survive a little bit longer. And then besides that, it's just debuffing. So supported attacks will always, so I have Maim here. I also have Blind, so I maim them and I blind enemies with my warriors. Next we have Raid Shield, which comes from a shield. I don't do anything with this. You'll see I don't even have it on my bars. Summon Infernal Hound comes from our Ascendancy. It's the first Ascendancy that I take. It doesn't cost any spirit to have the Summon Infernal Hound, which is fantastic. And basically, the Summon Infernal Hound takes hits for you, so it takes a portion of your damage that you take against itself, and then it also ignites enemies with its fire ability, and then it gains fire damage equal to 20% of the max life. So we're going to kind of look into max life buffing in a little bit, because max life buffing is something that I do quite a bit on this build. The first thing I have on this minion is Ruthless, and that just causes more stun buildup. Stunning is not a main thing that this build does at all, but having that stun buildup is still nice. You do get stuns off on bosses, and that helps. Normally, I get like 1 stun per boss, maybe, but you're killing the bosses so quick, it's not a huge deal. So Strip Away, exposure applied by supported skills has a 30% increased area of effect. Strip Away supports the Fire Exposure gem. The Fire Exposure gem basically makes it where our minion does 25% less damage, but he does inflict fire exposure, and then Strip Away increases the effect of that fire exposure by 30%. And of course, we're running a bunch of fire minions, so it makes sense. And fire just makes sense on the Infernalist, because your name's the Infernalist, so of course we're just going to use tons of fire. Then you have the Magnified effect support, which increases the area of effect of the skills by 40%. And this just makes it where your minion does a bigger radius when he's doing, his fire exposure and his different skills to, just like increase that radius. And you can actually see that radius increase if you go here. So anytime you want to check if a support gem actually does anything, right here, we can see under Miscellaneous, it says ignites enemies within a 2-meter radius as though dealing 1500 fire damage. And if you take away Magnified effect, you'll see that the radius drops down from 2 meters to 1.7 meters. Pain Offering is pretty simple. Your basic gist is you're going to be impaling one of your minions, which is what I showed you earlier, to increase the damage of all of your other minions. So you increase their attack and cast speed by 30%. And then currently I also give them 42% more damage, and that'll go up with the amount of like the level of the gem. So persistence, this just means the supported skill has a longer duration. This takes Font of Rage, and we can actually check out that duration right here. So spike duration right here. If we take off persistence, you can see the spike duration goes to 6 seconds. And we put persistence back on, it's actually 8.4 seconds. So a pretty big modifier right there. Font of Rage. This is something that I'll probably move to another offering when I get one in the future. And I will be getting another offering in the future, and I will talk about that. So objects created by supportive gems make a Font of Rage. This just makes your allies get rage stacks while they're around it. And if you want to see what Rage does, Rage basically, Rage grants 1% more attack damage per 1 Rage gained, right? So you can get up to 10 Rage, I want to say. And so that's an increase of like 10% damage to, a maximum of 30. So it's an increase of 30% damage at max, you know, to your minions. So it's just a nice little buff to your minions. And then you have, Ablation. 30% increased effect of offerings. Supported skills sacrifice 15% of life on use. And supported offering skills also deal 30% more damage. So overall, it's just an increase in the effect of the offering and the damage. So you can always take these skill gems out and kind of see the changes to the ability. Okay, so now we have Summon Raging Skulls, or Summon Raging Spirits. So this is a spirit skill. You right-click it to activate, and it takes 30 of your spirit. So you can see right now I actually have it down to, it says 30 spirit, but it takes a little bit less than that. You can see it only takes 27 spirit. You can see that down here right now I have 30 spirit, and now I have 3 spirit. And this skill is really great. How this skill works is you summon Raging Spirits when you use fire spells. The only fire spell that I know of that doesn't summon it is the Flamethrower spell. So basically, we're using Firewall, and that summons 5 Summon Raging Spirits maximum per cast. And your Firewall also ignites the enemies. So it's very good. And so that's how we're summoning our Summon Raging Spirits. What we're currently running on our Summon Raging Spirits, and I am considering changing these. I always thought Minion Instability was good on these Summon Raging Spirits, but my Summon Raging Spirits are dying less and less, even though I don't take any... I try to minimize the amount of defensive layers I put on my minions, with the exception of max health. And I think by buffing my max health too much to increase the damage of my Skeletal Arsonists, I've actually stopped having minions explode as much. So Minion Instability is pretty much on the way out the door, but if you're not to the point where I'm at, where you're just buffing the living crap out of max health on minions, you should be pretty good to run Minion Instability, and they'll just keep dying and exploding, and we run other gems to make them die quicker. Feeding Frenzy, they do 30% more damage, but they also take 20% more damage, so this is a win-win. They're taking more damage, so they explode quicker, and they're dealing 30% more damage. Fire Mastery, this is a good skill for a lot of spells, especially fire spells, but +1 to the level of fire-supported fire gems. So you can see that this gem is actually only a level 14 gem, but it's boosted to level 18 by all my different, skills that are being used on it. And I'll show you on my gear, I have a couple plus to minion levels, and then I also have this +1 to supported fire skills, and you can always see if this works based on, now it's level 17. Plug it in. Okay, it's level 18, so we know it works on this gem. So the final thing we have is Elemental Focus, and that is just, they deal 25% more elemental damage, but they can't inflict elemental ailments, so you're not going to be inflicting fire exposure with your, not fire exposure, you're not going to be inflicting Ignite with Summon Raging Spirits. Skeletal Arsonists are the main source of DPS for myself and most Necromancers out there right now. If you want to, you can basically take all the support gems I'm about to talk about, except for the fire-related ones, and run them on the freezing mages and the thunder mages. And so you can run a thunder or a freezing setup too. The first and most important skill on the Skeletal Arsonist, in my opinion, is Scattershot. Scattershot makes it where they do 20% less damage, but they fire two additional projectiles. So you'll see that later on when we go out and we fight, you'll see that my Arsonists are just throwing tons of bombs out. And they're throwing 3 out instead of 1, and it's fantastic. Martial Tempo, they have an increased attack speed. So another thing you'll see is my dudes are just throwing stuff out all the time. And if you look at their damage, so attacks per second, they have 1.2 attacks per second. And if we take out Martial Tempo, and we go back, you'll see that they have 0.96 attacks per second. So that's where Martial Tempo comes in and makes their attacks a little bit quicker. So Immolate. So this is the reason my these minions can't ignite enemies. They do additional damage to enemies, so they do 30% of damage as fire damage to enemy. So they do 30% additional damage. And then the final skill is Fire Infusion, which they deal extra fire damage, but they can't deal cold or lightning damage. Okay. Flame Wall just creates a wall. Normally it's just a flat wall, but you can see that mine is a circle. And the reason mine's a circle is because of Fortress. The consensus among Necromancers right now is that Fortress is more reliable for summoning more. When you're in a really winding pathway, if you put a wall down, sometimes you'll only get like 2 or 3 summon Raging Spirits out of that little firewall you put out. But if it's a circle, you'll get 2 of those little firewalls, you know, above and below, and that kind of makes it a little bit better. You have Arcane Tempo, which supported skills have 25% more cast speed, and that's just because if you sit there casting for very long without moving, you're going to be dead. So mobility supported skills have 20% less damage, but you have 40% less movement speed penalty while using it. So this is just a really great, that's just a really great passive for movement speed and not being stuck. Fire Infusion, oh sorry, my bad. Inspiration's the final skill on our Flame Wall, and that basically makes it where they have a less cost. So these are just like nice little utility things. There really aren't that many support gems that are like amazing. So we just kind of use what we can. We have Flammability, and that is where that is our debuff that we're using right now. So we cast down Flammability right here. Anything standing inside of that circle takes the curse, and the curse reduces their fire resistance by 34% right now for me. That changes as you level the skill up. The support gems I have socketed for that right now are Ritualistic Curse and Heightened Curse. And then I have Skeletal Clerics right now with no support gems. Skeletal Clerics are just there to res your minions quicker. They res your minions a little bit quicker, and they help keep them alive. So it's just a nice utility. I also have Blink on because a couple Necromancers were suggesting using Blink instead of your dodge roll. I'm not a fan of Blink right now. Maybe that'll change in the future. The reason I'm not a fan of it is it takes 60 spirit and it also removes your dodge roll. So once you're out of blinks, which you have 2 of them with the proper support gems, once you're out of blinks, you're just kind of stuck in a situation where you don't have a dodge roll. And so I'm not a big fan of Blink, but let's talk about some other gems that I am a fan of. I'm a fan of basically every fire spell in the game, like for real. So going to the elemental damage, I'm a fan of Incinerate. It's super fun to use, so it's just like a fun thing to throw in if you just want to have a little bit more like impact on the battle yourself. You sit there with a giant flamethrower, just shoot the flamethrower. Fireball is a super fun spell to use. You just shoot a fireball out and it blows up, and you know it's awesome. Firestorm is fantastic. Firestorm just summons meteors down all around you. It does trigger summon rage. So Incinerate's the one that doesn't trigger summon raging skulls. Firestorm's super fun. It summons summon raging skulls or summon raging spirits, and I have a blast with it. I put it on when I'm really bored. It does really great AoE damage, and it's super fun. And then Flame Blast is you kind of like hover in the air and charge up, and then a circle expands around you, and eventually you let it go and it explodes. And it's just nice AoE damage around you for fire damage. I'm actually a fan of every single fire spell in the game. I think they're super fun. The only one I haven't played around with that much is Ember Fusillade. So this is the only one I haven't used very much. Okay, so now that we've kind of gone over the skills, let's just talk about some gear things. Gear's really simple on a Necromancer. On your weapon, you want the number one thing you want to have is plus to the level of minion skills. None of these other things matter. Allies in your presence do increased critical hit damage. Allies in your presence have more damage, whatever, doesn't matter. Nothing's going to increase the damage of minion skills more than the plus to level of all minion skills. So I've heard that this goes up to +5 on weapons. I've never seen it myself. I've seen +3 and +4. Also, increased spirit is really, really good too. So increased spirit and increased percent to spirit. So right now off my weapon, I have 159 spirit. The most I've ever had was 164. And I bricked that weapon because I was corrupting it. For all the rest of your gear, you're looking for a max life modifier and then resistances, except for your necklace where you're looking for plus to minions. So right here, you're just looking for a good piece of life roll with some good fire resists and some good, just good resist in general. You want to get all of your resist up to 75%. You'll see that I don't have my chaos resist at 75%. My lightning resist is a little low right now, but that's okay because of some of our passives that reduce the amount of lightning damage we take, so it's not a big deal. You'll see my chest piece right now has a really bad life roll of only 16, but I got plus spirit on my life chest, and I really needed more minions at the time. But on your chest piece, you're looking for max life, increased spirit, and then resistances, and that's it. Gloves, the same thing, max life, increased resistances. Shoes, number one thing is movement speed. Right now I have 20% movement speed. I've seen up to 25% movement speed. Movement speed, life, resistances. That's it, right? I got my buddy texting me right now about how bad he's doing on controller. Your necklace, again, like I said, you're looking for plus something to the level of all minion skills. I've seen, I think, up to +2, so just get a +1, +2, and then max life resistances, okay? Obviously, this is a really bad necklace, level 8, but that's the general theory of what you want to do. Rings are a really good source of not only max life and resistances, and that's the main thing you're looking for is max life and resistances on your ring, but also like plus to dexterity, plus to strength, any side requirements you need to wear certain gear. So the only reason, and same thing on the other ring, the only reason I need any dexterity on this build is for the shield. My preference would be an armor and energy shield based shield to wear, or wearing even a really, really good focus, I think is okay. But a shield is really important, and most shields on the market, when I was looking on the market, they were all armor and energy shield. There were armor and evasion rating. Very, very few armor and energy shields out there right now. But you're looking for, again, you're looking for max life, you're looking for armor, and you're looking for resistances. That's the main things you're looking for on your shield. So gearing is really, really easy. For your belt, same thing, max life resistances, that's all you're looking for. For my charm right now, I'm actually using a golden charm. I could use a thunder charm to max out my thunder, or use a chaos charm. But as you see from looking at this gear, this is all really bad gear. Like, this is, none of this is like extremely amazing gear. And I'm still, going through maps just fine. The next thing we're looking at is our charm. So I like to use the golden charm, which increases the rarity of item found when you kill a rare or unique enemy. I like having better loot drops. My flasks, I haven't really found out what I like the most on flasks right now. I'm just using increased recovery rate and something to gain charges. So 34% increased charges gain, 34% chance to gain charges when you kill an enemy. There are also flasks that give some of that life to your minions, and that might be a good play. I've tried it. I haven't really seen a difference. So I'm not saying one way or the other. The next thing we're going to look at before we go into battle, we go show you what to do, is my skill tree. I have a pretty simple skill tree. All I did for my skill tree was I typed in minions. So right here on the search bar on the top right, I type in minions, and you'll see if you zoom out, you'll see that all the minion nodes are glowing, right? So you have a minion node glowing right here. So, yeah, super fun. And then you also have some minion skills all the way down here. Minions deal increased damage, have max life. Increased damage, have max life. So what I've done on my skill tree is I've actually gone for a lot of max life nodes. And the reason I've gone for a lot of and I have 0 resistances nodes. Any nodes that say resistance I don't take because I want my summon raging skulls to die. But it's getting to the point that my summon raging skulls aren't dying anyway. So I'm probably going to start taking some of those pretty soon and change up my support gems on my Summon Raging Skulls or Summon Raging Spirits, or maybe just getting rid of Summon Raging Spirits in general and going more Arsonists. So right here, I'll just kind of go slowly over the tree so you can kind of see the path I took. A couple life recovery nodes right here, but everything else is minions. Where I'm going next on the tree, the next thing I'm getting is right here, Lust for Sacrifice. And once I get Lust for Sacrifice, that does a 40% increase in minion damage when you have 2 offerings active. And when that happens, I'm going to be getting Bone Offering on top of Pain Offering, and I'll have both of those active at the same time for increased damage. I'm not going to get this Necromantic Talisman. This is like a really big node, and it seems like this is supposed to be a definitive node for Necromancers, but I haven't found an amulet that I feel really would pump up my minions so much that I would want to lose my gear slot. So besides that, looking at the Ascendancies, I haven't done my third Ascendancy yet, but I'm about to, but I'll tell you where I'm going to go. The first thing I do is I take the Loyal Hellhound. I love the Loyal Hellhound just for the cosmetic reason, not to mention what he actually does. And he's just a great minion to have around. He resummons himself. He costs no spirit. He does good damage, and he's just super fun. And you get more links on him as you level up. The next path I go down is I go down here to the left, and I take Max Life, and then I also take Altered Flesh because it converts cold damage and lightning damage to fire damage, which I'm already buffing the crap out of my fire resist. The only negative is it turns physical damage into chaos damage, 20% of it, and I have really low chaos resist, so I actually do get hit by chaos damage quite a bit. The next node I'll be taking 3% increased max life, and then Biat's Will, right here, and this reserves 25% of your max life, and you get +1 to maximum spirit per max life you have. So that's pretty good. Just looking at this right here, once I get up to 2,500 life, I'll have 100 extra. Wait, is that math right? Yeah, so I'll have 100 extra spirit when I get up to 2,500 max life, and I have plenty of areas in my gear where I can boost my max life up. After that, I am considering doing the same thing with my mana or my life shield, but I'm also considering maybe getting demon form if I want to have fun. So that's my current build for Necromancer. I'm just going to go grab a Waystone real fast. We'll grab a tier 5 Waystone. Let me make sure I turn that into a Regal it up. You know, one more thing before we go in here is I want to show how to craft on stuff. Like what you're looking, how you can actually craft on items. So what you're going to do on an item, a white item you pick up. So any white item that you see that could be good for you, like an energy shield based or armor and energy shield, if you have enough orbs of transmutation, orbs of augmentation, go ahead and grab those and craft on them a little bit. And what you're going to do is you're going to orb of transmute it, and you're going to see what the first roll is. Plus 10 life regeneration per second is not a roll that I care about. And then you're going to hit it with a orb of augmentation, and you're going to see what the second roll is. Plus life is great. But guess what? 10 life is horrible. So what I'm going to do, I'm just going to take this chest piece and I'm going to throw it back into my Reforge cache. And if I got a piece like right here, this is plus 85 life. This is plus 85 life and plus 17 cold resist. That's a pretty good chest. That's high. That's a decent life roll. It's not the best life roll. It is better than what I have on my current piece of gear, which is 16. If I got max life and max spirit, I would have already rolled this higher. But just to show you what to do next, like let's say I wanted to use this chest piece and I wanted to gamble, there is a little bit more gambling. The first thing you're going to do after you roll the Orb of Transmutation and Orb of Augmentation, and you'll see it has no more room for mods on magic, you're going to take a Regal Orb and you're going to roll it into a rare item. So now it's a rare item. So now I have, hey, that's pretty good, plus 22 max energy shield, which is a low roll, but it's okay. So it's a tier 7, and it's pretty high in the tier 7 roll. So now that I have it gold, what I can do is all of these rolls that I have on it right now are good rolls for me. It's max energy shield, it's max life, it's max cold resist. If I had bad rolls right now at all, if I had like stun threshold or like increased thorn damage or anything like that, I wouldn't do anything else to this piece. I'd put it away. But since it's a good piece, the next step is taking an Exalted Orb and let's add another modifier onto it. Okay, so now I got stun threshold. That's one I don't like, but let's say it was something good. I'm going to use another Exalted Orb on it, and now I got fire resist and cold resist on it, and I'm just going to keep using, and now I have fire resist, cold resist, and see I got thorn damage and stun threshold, so I hate those. But what I did was now there's no more room for mod. So I just took this blue piece, and I turned it into a pretty solid chess piece. It's not amazing. It's not the best thing ever. It has a way better life roll than my piece does, but all in all, it's not a bad piece of gear. What you could do now is you could take a Chaos Orb and you could randomly remove modifiers to see if it gets better. Like, I don't want to waste a Chaos Orb right now, but you could randomly remove a modifier. So if I got lucky, it would remove thorn damage and it would put like a plus spirit on it instead, right? Or if I really want to gamble, what I can do is I can take a Vol Orb and I can just, this is going to corrupt the item, which makes it, I can't edit it anymore, but it's either going to keep the item exactly the same or it's going to randomly configure it and make it better or worse. So right there, it just randomly configured it and made it whatever. I got plus 85 life still, plus 16 intelligence. My fire resist is gone, but and it took my cold resist down to nothing. So now this piece of gear becomes hot garbage. Okay, so let me go out and actually show you Waystone. So we're going to go to, this one has a blight in it. We could go there. I'm going to try to find one with a bunch of modifiers on it. This one has a boss on it, so let's go here. So we're going to the Forge. And I'm just going to show you kind of how I play this build and how I played it leveling up too. So coming in here, I just throw out my Summon Raging Spirits in front of me, and then I kind of stand behind my minions. Now, by default, your button to control where your minions stand is on tilde. I moved it to my middle mouse button. So with my middle mouse button, I can control my minions. So if you are scared of dying, you can always throw your minions ahead of yourself. And you can keep on that to any button you want in the inputs. I don't normally actually tell my minions to go ahead of me unless there's like a really, really tight corridor that I'm worried about going into. And the main things that I would fix on my build right now is I would get more movement speed, I'd get more max life, and I'd fix my resistances a little bit more. But all of that'll come with time. I do have a lot of exalts that I can spend on buying gear from other players, which I'll probably do at some point in the near future. But you can see I'm just kind of chilling back. I'm letting my Skeletal Arsonist throw from far back. Anytime I'm running into enemies, I'm kind of getting behind my minions. Now, what I'm not doing here is I'm not using my Flammability and I'm not using my Pain Offering. The reason being is there's just no point right now. If I use my Pain Offering right now, these guys would die a lot quicker. So that's actually a rare enemy. So on the rare enemy, I will use my Pain Offering and my Flammability, which I did throw down on that guy. But if I use my Pain Offering and my Flammability right now, this stuff is just going to die so quickly. It's not like I just put Flammability down. It doesn't even have time to get on the enemy before they're dead, right? But I'm always keeping my eye out for rare enemies. So you can see I almost died right there. I'm always keeping my eye out for rare enemies to throw it on. Now, mapping is very dangerous, I think, as a lot of people know, mainly due to your survivability with your gear. So right there, I'm going to throw my minions out in front of me. And you can see I'm down to 4 Skeletal Arsonists right now. But they'll come back up soon. And I actually am out of all of my Clerics. So at that point, what I'll do is I will just... Oh, there's another rare enemy. At that point, what I'll do is I'll just kind of back up until they're all back up. You know, I'll keep backing up, keep throwing out Summon Raging Spirits. And, you know, just back up while my minions do a lot of damage. And take out the enemies that I'm fighting. Now, looking for rare enemies can be kind of difficult in mapping. Basically, if an enemy just isn't dying instantaneously, that's when I'm like, okay, either it's a rare or a magic enemy, and I'll throw down my, like this guy, see, this guy's not dying instantaneously, but he's not a rare or magic enemy. He just probably has some defensive modifier to magic. So just pick up a shrine right there. I gain cold damage, nice. But as a Necromancer, just make sure your minions stay ahead of you. And normally how I do that is I run in, see the enemies, and then I kind of back up and throw out my Summon Raging Spirits between me and the enemies. Or, like I said, I'll use my middle mouse button to tell my minions to go on ahead of me. Nice, we got another Tier 5 Waystone. And what I'm going to do now is I'm just going to run around this map, and I am going to find the boss, and I will show you the boss fight. So here we go. Let's run around this map and kill stuff. Another little tip is on how I like to do maps. I like to do maps by like outlining the map as much as I can and then doing the center of the map. It just helps me with navigating a little bit. So like if I see a little path like that, I'll try not to take it off on the side, but you can see you just kind of got to pick a direction and commit to it. And if you have to backtrack, you have to backtrack. But by outlining the maps, I generally find that backtracking is a little less serious, a little less happening a little less. Oh, you know what? Another thing we didn't go over that I really want to go over. Ooh, boom, there we go. Another thing that we didn't go over that I really want to go over is actually on my Skeletal Arsonist. So you can see you need to pay, another thing you need to pay attention to is what your effects from quality are. So the Skeletal Arsonist still additional fire damage equal to 0 to 4% of the minion's max life. Right now, my Skeletal Arsonist is plus 10% quality, and so that means it does 2% extra damage based on the minion's max life. So I'm buffing their max life as much as I can in my tree, and you can see with Skeletal Clerics, their qualifier is minions actually have more life from their quality. So right now what I'm doing is I'm boosting up the quality of the Skeletal Clerics because it goes to 30% more max life, and then I'll boost the quality of my Infernal Hound because the Infernal Hound goes up to 20% more max life. So all minions have 20% more max life, all minions have 30% more max life, and that means my Skeletal Archers will do more damage as I increase their quality too. So that's one thing, or sorry, not Skeletal Archers, Skeletal Arsonists. So that's another thing that I'm doing on my minions that is very interesting, and boosting their damage that way. And it also makes it where my little Summon Raging Skulls don't actually explode as much as I want them to, or ever. So that is why I'm probably going to be moving off of Minion Instability. And maybe Minion Instability overall will do more damage than my idea. But at the end of the day, I want to play in my style, and my style is more like consistent damage, and eventually I would love to not use Summon Raging Spirits at all, and instead use maybe a bit more of an active fire ability. And talking about a bit more of an active fire ability, we can actually throw on, let's throw on Firestorm, Incinerate, and Flame Blast real quick. Just for fun. These aren't serious skills that you should try to be using all the time, but I have a lot of fun with them, and so, you know, they're just options there. So this is Firestorm. It's one of my favorite AoE spells in the game. I used to put Spell Echo on it, and Spell Echo and increasing the limit of the skill, but you don't have to. And it just summons down, wherever you're aiming, it summons down just a big old Firestorm that just does tons of AoE damage and does the Summon Raging Spirits. It's fun. It's not as reliable as Flame Wall, just because Flame Wall's so fast. It's just fast and it's easy. And you can see right here, I'm kind of stuck in place for a second when I use this. And then the Fire Explosion skill, which is called Flame Blast, you just kind of float in the air and then you explode. I'm sure you can make that explosion bigger. And then the final skill is your Flamethrower, which is a lot of fun. You can walk around very slowly when you're using Flamethrower. But at the end of the day, the skills I showed you initially are probably the best skills to use. So we actually have a fire damage here, of course, because we're in the Forge. And everybody will recognize this boss from the campaign as the Titan boss. So we will... So what I'm doing on the boss is I am just putting out my curses, and I'm putting out my my pain offering. And you can see when the curse is out on the enemy, because you'll see that the curse at Flammability is right here, negative 42% to his fire damage. So just make sure you keep your flame buffs up, and make sure you keep your Summon Raging Spirits up, keep your curses up, and pain offering up, and you'll be good to go. So that's only really 3 things you have to do. You know, keep Flammability, keep Summon Raging Skulls, and keep pain offering, and you're good to go. And see, bosses really die that quick. And you saw that I did not have good gear. I didn't have great, I don't have like maxed out skills yet. I don't have anything that's like so outstanding. My staff is only +2 to level of minion skills. My necklace is only +1. I'm just kind of using the Necromancer general chat. So right here, you can see in the Necromancer general chat, Arsonist 4th gem after Scattershot, Tempo, Fire Infusion. And this person says, I use Minion Mastery. And then you have somebody else saying, use Immolate. And then somebody else is like, hey, want +1 free level. I hope this video helped you out. I'm probably going to do minimal editing on it to just get it out there. If you ever need anything with Necromancer, just comment down in chat. I'll try to get back to you. But join the Necromancer chat in Path of Exile 2. Gazzy TV has some pretty good resources out there. And I would just have fun with it. At the end of the day, Arsonists seem to be the best minion in the game right now, but I have no doubt that there are tons of minion combos we haven't even seen yet, and especially more minion combos coming out later when new support gems come out. But okay, if you have any other links or you do something else on your minion build that you love that I should try, let me know in the chat below. And if you are still here at the end of the video, thank you so much. And leave a comment letting me know you're here, and we can and I'll try to give you a special shout out. Thanks.